What is up? We are back. It is week 12, waiver wire. I know this is the time of year where not a lot of waiver additions are impactful and so on and so forth, but today I'm going to try and do the impossible and try and please everybody. And what I'm going to do today, since there's 6 teams on bye in week 12, there's a number of different avenues and facets of waiver additions that you guys are probably looking for. So I'm going to start with like shallow league pickups if you're just looking for a player to make your team better. For those of you guys, especially in like 8 and 10 team leagues, that'll help you. Then we'll go through like top 5 bye week fill-ins if you have wide receivers or running backs on bye. We can talk about some players right off the waiver wire that you could throw into your flex spot. Then I'll talk about some bench stashes for those of you guys gearing up for a playoff run, looking to stash some upside on your bench. Then QB and tight end streamers if your quarterback or tight end is on bye this week. So a lot to get into, but we should get through it pretty quickly. Let's start with the shallow league pickups. These would be my top 3 waiver additions just across the board in all situations. If you guys needed a wide receiver, especially because all 3 of these guys are wide receivers for a bye week fill-in for the long term, whatever the case is, these guys are my top 3 waiver additions this week, starting with Quentin Johnston, who is 56% rostered in sleeper leagues right now. So again, a lot of shallow leagues he might be out there, but probably not in deeper leagues. He has actually been a top 36 wide receiver in 5 of 7 games that he stayed healthy in, because he left in week 6 early with an injury. So if you guys are looking for wide receiver production, Quentin Johnston playing the Baltimore Ravens this week, one of the easiest wide receiver matchups out there. So he is a great pickup for a bye week fill-in or just for the long term. Xavier Legette this week for the Carolina Panthers going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, 47% rostered. Saw some decent usage since Deontay Johnson was traded. Over 90% of the routes in both games. He was a first-round receiver, very talented but raw. So coming off of the bye week, maybe we see a post-bye rookie bump. And we've also seen Bryce Young play a lot better as of late. The last 2 games that we saw Bryce Young before the bye were his highest PFF passing grades on the entire season. So Xavier Legette, definitely a solid pickup for those of you guys in need of wide receivers. And Christian Watson, same thing. Just had a big game with Jordan Love against the Chicago Bears, 19 PPR points, went over 140 yards, had some big plays. Maybe he's a more integral part of the offense going forward, although we know with these Packers receivers, sometimes they kind of yo-yo week. Sometimes it's Dobbs, sometimes it's Watson, sometimes it's a Reed, sometimes it's Wicks. They're all kind of interchangeable. But if you need a wide receiver, all these guys are rostered heavily. So for those of you in 12-man leagues, they're probably not available. But if you do have them available, they're good pickups. So pickups for 12-man leagues and deeper league formats. If you guys need immediate production, you are in a position like I am. I have one league where I have like James Cook, Breece Hall, Darnell Mooney, a bunch of guys on bye, and you're looking to fill in a flex position. So for 12-team and deeper leagues, these are sub 40% rostered players in sleeper leagues. My top 5 flex pickups, starting with number 5, we have Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, and I'm going to go in ascending order here, so whoever I name last will be the best option. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine versus the Houston Texans this week. Since DeAndre Hopkins was dealt, NWI has played virtually every snap. He's finished with 11.9 PPR points in 3 of his last 4 games. And a lot of that is due to the fact that he's been scoring touchdowns. He leads the Tennessee Titans with 5 receiving touchdowns this year. I don't think he'll score a 98-yarder every single week, but I do think he's a viable, 5 to 6, 7 target projection. Maybe he scores and gets you a solid week off of the waiver wire, right? You could throw him right into your lineup, and he's a half-decent option. But I do prefer Elijah Moore, who is my number 4 must-add kind of waiver pickup this week. 19% rostered versus the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. The Browns are second in the NFL in pass attempts per game. The Steelers are a tough defense overall, but they actually are a little bit more susceptible to slot receivers. Their slot corner, Beanie Bishop, is allowing the most fantasy points per route run of any cornerback on the team, so he is the weakest link in the secondary as far as like catches and targets and yards is concerned. Moore is commanding targets, and he has finished as a top 24 wide receiver in 3 of the 4 games that Jameis Winston has started, and I think he's a viable flex play this week if you guys are down bad with buys. My number 3 waiver add, and this is the only running back you're going to hear me talk about really as somebody you could put into your lineup. And it also, I don't know for sure if you're going to be able to do this, because Amir Abdullah, Dylan Laube, and I can even group in Zamir White here, we don't know the severity yet somehow. It's like almost Wednesday, and we don't know the severity yet of Alexander Mattison and Zamir White's injuries. Alexander Mattison, it appears, according to a lot of fantasy docs, that he suffered a high ankle sprain, which would likely keep him out for the next 2 to 4 weeks, but we don't know anything about Zamir White's injury. If these 2 guys are projected to be out, or if you just want to maybe hedge your bets and try and get a running back pickup, then you could go and pick up Amir Abdullah, who played the majority of the touches, majority of the snaps in their absences. Of course, he can catch passes. He'll be heavily involved in that avenue. And also the Raiders are just a bad team, so they're probably going to be in a lot of negative game scripts for however long these guys are out. Amir Abdullah is definitely a viable flex play running back, or if you're really down bad and need an RB2 this week, I do think he's a half-decent option there. My number 2 waiver addition for 12-team leagues is Jalen Coker versus the Kansas City Chiefs this week. 31% target share before the bye. He was a back shoulder fade away from actually having a great fantasy day. As I alluded to with Xavier Legette, Bryce Young has been playing a lot better. Had 2 good games, now gets a bye. Maybe we see a lot better version of Bryce Young going forward. It is a very tough matchup against Kansas City. Very good pass rush, very good secondary. Everything about their defense is negative against wide receivers, but it's likely going to be a positive game script with a lot of passing. And if Bryce Young has really turned a corner, maybe he can keep that offense functional, and you could use Jalen Coker this week. Speaking of Jalen's, my top wide receiver or just running back flex pickup in general this week is Jalen McMillan of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the New York Giants. A lot of managers probably rage dropped him before the bye because he was active and didn't catch a pass, didn't even run a route. He was coming off of a hamstring injury. He should be fully healed by now, considering he was actually, deemed healthy enough to play in week 10, has a bye week, coming back in week 12. We do have Mike Evans coming back. We do have, Cade Otton obviously took a step forward in the absence of all those players. Rashad White and Bucky Irving have been playing really well. The offense was still functional. I mean, we took the Kansas City Chiefs and the 49ers to the wire, despite being without our top 3 receivers. No Godwin, no Evans, and no McMillan the last couple of weeks, and the offense has still been very good. So with Evans and McMillan coming back, I do think the Bucs offense is going to be very solid. Again, we took the Kansas City Chiefs on the road in Arrowhead to overtime, and we almost beat the 49ers. With Christian McCaffrey back, they had to get a last-second field goal to win that game. So Evans and McMillan back this week should be definitely right back up to a dominant top 10, top 12 type of offense like they were before all of those injuries happened on the offensive side of the ball. So I think Jalen McMillan, if you needed a flex right off the waiver wire to throw into your lineup, I think Jalen McMillan is probably the best guy that's actively available in over 40% of leagues. Again, top 5 stashes for those of you guys who maybe just have no issues starting players. You have plenty of guys to start, and you're holding a second tight end, or you're holding a second quarterback, or you're holding a random Adam Thielen, no upside wide receiver or running back, and you're looking for some real upside. You have a great team. You're 8-3, you're 9-2, you're 7-4 with a lot of points for, and you're just looking to stash some upside on your bench. My top 5 stashes are all running backs minus 1 guy. Trey Benson, elite handcuff, probably one of the best in fantasy when you account for the fact that James Conner is older, has never finished a full season, and Trey Benson was my RB1 coming into the 2024 NFL draft. So I do really like Trey Benson. If he has a chance to take over this Cardinals backfield, he might even do it without an injury, but more than likely, he is probably going to need a James Conner injury to do so, but he is the best running back stash out there, in my opinion, who's actively available in most leagues. Cam Akers has been seeing uptick in usage, 10-plus carries last week, but Aaron Jones is banged up right now, so he's definitely a great stash. Ray Davis and Braylon Allen are pure handcuffs. I mean, you probably can't start them unless James Cook or Breece Hall went down, neither of which are playable this week. They're both on bye, so they're probably going to get dropped in a lot of leagues. And if you're just looking for an upside stash for the fantasy playoffs, I think they're good options. And then Dontavian Wicks, the triple wide receiver handcuff of fantasy football. If any one of Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, or Christian Watson go down, we know that Dontavian Wicks is a startable option. So those are the stashes. Let's get into QB and tight end streamers for those of you guys that are looking for a fill-in for some bye week guys here. Justin Herbert and Bo Nix would be the top quarterback streamers if they were available, but both of them are rostered in over 60% of leagues. Both of them have been really good for fantasy, so I can't imagine they'll be widely available, but if they are available and you have like Josh Allen on bye or something, definitely go and pick up Herbert or Bo Nix. Anthony Richardson is one guy that is pretty widely available in a lot of leagues. He faces Detroit this week, which typically throw you into a pass-heavy game script, a game script where you're playing from behind because of how good their offense is. He had 10 designed carries last week against the Jets. To me, it was the best game of his entire career, just how he looked, how confident he was running it the way we know he's capable of. So Anthony Richardson, definitely a very good streaming quarterback this week if he's out there. And who knows, if you're starting bad quarterbacks right now, maybe he turns into more than that. But if you just need a bye week fill-in and Anthony Richardson is out there, he is a great, great option. Geno Smith, also a pretty good option, bye week fill-in this week against Arizona at home in Seattle, 18th ranked matchup for fantasy quarterbacks. Seahawks are top 3 in pass attempts per game, so they're throwing the ball like crazy. JSN is playing well. He's taking a step forward. DK Metcalf now healthy. Noah Fant probably coming back this week. And of course, Tyler Lockett still kicking. So he's a very good streaming quarterback as well. Moving into the tight end position, if you guys are looking for a tight end because you have somebody on bye, maybe you got Dalton Kincaid on bye or whatever the case is, Will Dissly, Chargers are a top 10 team in pass rate over expected since their bye week. And Will Dissly has had at least 5 targets in 5 of his last 6 games. So he's been heavily involved in the game plan. and the Chargers, of course, will move the ball against the Ravens because everybody moves the ball against the Ravens. They're a bottom 5 pass defense overall, and they are susceptible to the tight end position. Jonnu Smith, of course, coming off of a monster game, season high 92% of the routes, had 28.1 PPR points, which was a very, very good productive week for him. Patriots are league average against tight ends. Tua's best game of 2024 was last week against the Raiders, in my opinion. So if Tua's going to start to play better and Waddle's still playing like shit and Tyreek's still not 100%, then Jonnu Smith is going to have a role in this offense, and I definitely think you can stream him this week going up against the Patriots. It is a revenge game, pseudo-narrative there for him. If you have to dig deeper because those guys are not available, I don't mind Jatavian Sanders, 9% rostered, as I talked about with Bryce Young. He's been playing better. Season high, 89% of the routes post-bye. Kansas City Chiefs defense actually ranks 22nd against tight ends, which is among all the fantasy positions. They're very good against running backs, very good against wide receivers, very good against quarterbacks. The one susceptible position they have is tight ends. So maybe Jatavian Sanders has a chance to exploit them over the middle of the field. It's going to be a pass-heavy game script versus a team that has only lost one game, versus a team competing for a top overall pick. So definitely an interesting option if you guys need a deeper tight end name. I think JT Sanders is a half decent one. So if you enjoyed this video, if you got some value from it, leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new around here. We got tons of big content coming up. We're going to have trade targets, like league-winning redraft trade targets, coming up either later today or tomorrow morning. And then we'll also have dynasty trade targets for those of you guys that are dynasty players. We just made a sweeping update to our trade value charts, which are available over on flockfantasy.com, which of course you can get 30% off, 7 days for free, and 6 months for free when you sign up annually by using the promo code FSE. You'll get our rest of season rankings, dynasty rankings, weekly rankings, dynasty trade value charts, prospect models, everything you guys can need to dominate your fantasy football leagues, redraft, dynasty, or otherwise. That is available on flockfantasy.com. The link down below in the pinned comment is how you can access that stuff. Stay tuned for those other videos this week. And of course, like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed, like I said. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.